Today, CNN contributor and ESPN senior writer LZ Granderson, former DNC communications chair Maria Cardona, and Politic 365 chief political correspondent in Ohio's Hiram College professor Jason Johnson, and rounding things out nicely, Republican strategist Rich Galen. Welcome to all of you.
Good morning.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks.
Good
morning.
On to question one. Why the historic filibustering of Chuck Hagel? History in the U.S. Senate. Not the Lincoln and the 13th Amendment kind of history, but the partisanship kind. Republicans have successfully blocked the confirmation of Chuck Hagel for defense secretary, in part because of Hagel's controversial remarks on gays and Jews and his terrible performance during his confirmation hearings, but also because 5 months ago, terrorists attacked the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya.
We will continue pushing and asking questions about Benghazi, not because it's personal, not because we're Republicans and he's a Democrat, but because America needs to learn what happened, and we need to learn from our mistakes.
This despite testimony about Benghazi from General Petraeus, Hillary Clinton, Admiral Mike Mullen, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta, and General Martin Dempsey, among others. Not enough. Republicans want more answers from the president, even though the president sent them a letter overnight with more details. So, first talkback question. Why the historic filibustering of Chuck Hagel? Rich?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's so much a filibuster. It's more, in Senate terms, it's more like a temporary hold. I think they've made it pretty clear that when they get back from their 2-week vacation, because they have worked 3 weeks in a row, that they'll probably clear him. So I think Hagel will be the defense secretary. And, you know, he was only nominated on January 7th, so it's not like this has been held up for 6 or 7 months.
Well, what's the danger? What do they most fear about Chuck Hagel?
Oh, I don't think they fear anything from him. I do think you get a chance to stick, poke your finger in his eye, and you take it if you're a senator. That's what they do for a living.
But, Jason, that's ridiculous. They just did it to poke you in the eye or poke Democrats in the eye?
Yeah, they're bitter and they're being petty. Look, but this is not new for the Republican Party. Remember, the Senate Judiciary Committee has blocked every woman and every minority judge that Barack Obama has put forward. So the Republicans are continuing to be the party of no. This is a waste of time. We need a Secretary of Defense when we've got sequester coming up. And this is just another black eye for a party that hasn't gotten over the 2012 loss.
But
Marietta College is going to beat Hiram in basketball this year.
Maria, you would think, oh, man. Maria, you would think that Democrats would have finessed this better and tried to, like, avoid this from happening, because it's kind of embarrassing, isn't it?
Well, look, I actually think it's more embarrassing for the Republican Party. This is just about the 2 Ps, Carol, and I'm not talking about the conditions on the cruise ship. This is, it's personal and it's political. It's personal, and frankly, John McCain was very clear about this on another network yesterday, Carol, that he and many other Republicans have not gotten over the fact that when Hagel was in the Senate, he was absolutely against the Iraq War. Never mind that the majority of the Americans ended up being against the Iraq War as well. This is something that he has never been forgiven for. And secondly, it's political, because back to what Jason said, and I completely agree, this is a Republican Party who is hell-bent on not ever willingly giving President Obama what he wants. And there's a big danger here, because the American people were very clear during the election that they want the 2 parties to work together, and the Republicans have only obstructed and said what they're against. They still have not told us what they are for.
Well, LZ, you mentioned earlier that John McCain spoke in glowing terms of Chuck Hagel just a few years ago, and he already knew about that Iraq War thing.
Right. He was for Hagel before he was against him. He pulled a John Kerry on us. It's what everyone else has already said. This is political and it's petty. And, and just one other thing I want to point out. While it's true that he wasn't officially nominated or presented until like January 6th or 7th, the fact is his name has been floated out there since November. And so it's not as if, the Republicans didn't already tell us ahead of time that they were going to do this. They told us they were going to do this before the official process even began. And so really this is going on to be like a 3 or 4 month long process, and not just a couple of weeks.
And Rich, I would pose to you,
let me remind everybody about John Bolton. The Democrats, not only, they blocked him forever to be the ambassador to the UN, solely because they didn't like his personality, and ultimately George W. Bush needed to use his recess appointment to put him there.
There were reports that John Bolton had sexually harassed people who worked under him. There were reports of John Bolton behaving in absolutely ridiculous ways. So this is a bit deeper.
There were reports. Let me just say something. If having reports were a disqualification for public service or
and it's absolutely legitimate, and it's an absolutely legitimate concern for the Senate to ask about. This is nothing but sort of petty politics by the Republican Party. It's
That's right. His statements about Iran, his statements about Israel, his statements about gays.
He has concerns about Israel.
Those are not necessary.
And those are questions that have been asked, and those have been questions that have been answered. So the issue here is, what else do the Republicans want other than to just poke Barack Obama in the eye?
And Rich, wait a second. I would pose this to you because...
Stop with the projectile sweat. In 12 days or 13 days, he'll be the defense secretary.
Well, exactly, and I was just going to ask you about that. So it's likely he'll be confirmed anyway, despite this lull in the action, so to speak. But the Pentagon has to deal with Congress, with lawmakers, with Republican lawmakers, and won't this affect their relationship?
No, of course not. This is all transactional. It always has been for the last 250, 70 years, whatever it's been. But one of the reasons that I believe the president chose Hagel is because he was a senator. He wasn't on armed services, but he was a senator. He understands how the place works. Now he's got 3 people that can help him because the president doesn't like dealing with the Senate very much. Who can blame him? But now he's got Joe Biden, John Kerry, and he will have Chuck Hagel, all of whom are very skilled in dealing with the Senate, and that'll be helpful to him moving through time.
But here's, Carol,
this
is one of the reasons why it's so problematic for Republicans. And Rich is right that, there have been some holds and there has been something like this in the past, but we're in a very different place right now. And the reasons that they are stating as to why they are against Chuck Hagel do not pass muster. The American people are sick of petty politics in Washington. This is a president that he has said he's willing to meet the Republicans halfway. We have yet to see the halfway where Republicans are willing to meet this president. It's going to be a PR nightmare for Republicans if they continue this kind of petty politics.
We want our
Facebook. One thing if I could just add this.
Sure.
If I could just add one little caveat here. If we fast forward in 3 years, everyone's projecting that Hillary Clinton is going to run and be the Democratic nominee. The more that they're able to drum up this kind of mess and have this kind of archived, if you will, the more they'll be able to have some artillery to be able to combat her when they do have to face her in the general election. And so I don't think this is all about being chess. I think this is all checkers, rather. I think there's a little chess being involved as well.
Interesting. Okay, we want to hear what our Facebook friends feel about this question. So the question again, why the historic filibustering of Chuck Hagel?